Hello everyone, my name is Beanie.
Hi, I'm Laurel.
And welcome to the Weeb Years, a look back at the media and culture of the Western anime boom. Laurel, have you done a lot of studying recently?
I don't think I've studied since I graduated, period. I did my time.
You don't have the fervor for life like a certain person we're going to talk about today does then.
I might have once.
That was way sadder than I was expecting. Today, we are going to be talking about an OVA classic, Golden Boy.
I'm so excited. I had a lot of fun with this one. I didn't expect to like this one so much, and I loved it.
I'm so glad. Had you ever heard of this before?
Funny story. Why the fuck was the manga at my school library? I never read it.
Oh, no.
Because I was like, oh, it's about a boy. This would have rocked my little world.
That's bad. That was a thing, though. Back in the day, was like adults who didn't know anything about anime. They just assumed like, oh, it's a cartoon, it's a comic, so it must be for kids.
Oh, believe me.
And that's how you have all those stories of like 6-year-olds being shown fucking Ninja Scroll and shit because it was just in the animated section at Blockbuster.
See, believe me, I know, because my favorite book when I was 9 was Junji Ito's Uzumaki Volume 2.
Ooh, that's pretty good, though. That's good shit.
Yeah, it was in my school library, and I remember seeing it and being like, wow, I've never seen anyone's body torn apart by a car wheel before. This is so cool.
I'm 9.
I'm 9. And I remember, like, I had this kind of friend who was a girl, and I would just show her the individual panels and be like, look, this is what happens when you get run over by a car.
Ooh. Oof.
Shout out to Junji Ito.
Shout out to Junji Ito.
Junji, yes, sorry.
I don't like that I'm that person that corrects people's pronunciations, but sometimes it just gets me.
No, that makes sense, because it was something I discovered so young that I didn't really understand how to pronounce Japanese names yet. So it's just a habit I got into really young, you know?
Oh yeah, that makes sense. No, my school library, even something like Dragon Ball, like my school library had the original Dragon Ball manga in like those omnibus collections that came out in like the... What?
You had fucking Dragon Ball. We had, like, Dragon Drive.
Weird.
And, like, yeah, a lot
Canadian
of them...
schools are strange.
A lot of the manga that they had at school libraries was, like, objectively worse than what they had at public libraries.
But yeah, even just Dragon Ball, it's like, oh, this is cute, this is charming, like, this is a thing that's on TV. But then also there's panels of, like, there's Bulma's bare ass as she's flashing an old man and doesn't realize her panties are off.
I think that's what put me off of Dragon Ball when I first saw it, was that there was, like, bare asses and piss jokes.
Yeah, I love Dragon Ball to death, and I've always been one of those proponents of, like, you can't start with Z. You need to read the original series. You miss so much, but, ooh, that first major arc or so has aged very poorly.
I don't know what it's about, but I'll take your word for it.
Speaking of things that have aged somewhat questionably but are still fun, Golden Boy!
Yeah, back on topic.
Yeah.
I really need to consume more seinen, period, because every time I watch a seinen, I'm like, wow, I love this genre. And then
There's
I go back to watching fucking shonen.
I forget, because seinen, because you got shonen, which is for young boys, shoujo, which is for young girls, seinen, which is for adult men. I forget what the female targeted version of seinen is.
Is it
Let me look that up real quick.
Jinsei or something like that? Or josei?
I think it's josei. Yeah, it is josei. Okay.
Josei, yeah.
So, Golden Boy started life as a manga written by Tatsuya Egawa in 1992 and ran for 10 volumes. I checked out a few random chapters of the manga just for funsies, because I remember reading a lot of it when I was in middle school. I apparently blocked out a lot of what happened because I didn't remember most of this shit. It starts out about as horny as the show does, but eventually it just turns into, like, it is just flat out porn. It is just hentai. And it gets weird. Like, do you remember the high school girl, Mog daughter? Yeah, she has, like, magic urine that she makes people drink and then mind controls them.
What?
Yeah, you weren't ready for that, were you? I wasn't ready for that when I read it. It got weird. So, a 6-episode OVA was produced by APPP, who also worked on Project A-ko, and you're gonna like this, the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure OVA.
Yeah! Yeah!
I saw that and I was like, oh, Laurel's gonna be happy.
I've only watched that once, and it was about after half a bottle of Fireball and half a bottle of vodka.
Oh, God. You live a terrifying life. The Golden Boy OVA was licensed for North America by ADV Films and released on both VHS and later DVD. The license got transferred around a couple of times and is now being held by our good friends at Discotheque Media.
Good old Discotheque.
One little bit of trivia that I thought was really neat as I was doing research on this. Supposedly, this show popularized anime in Russia after airing on their version of MTV.
Okay. I didn't know that there was an anime boom there.
I guess they did, thanks to Golden Boy. Also, I might be wrong, but I think I remember it was in like fucking 2010 or something. Like it was really late.
Oh, that is weird.
Now, we wouldn't normally go episode by episode like we're going to do, but considering each episode is sort of its own self-contained story, I think it kind of makes sense this time around.
Yes, and I think it's short too, right? It's only 6 episodes it was? Yeah, 6 episodes. So it's going to be a lot easier to go episode by episode in a 6-episode OVA than it would be to do that for like a 26 or 52 episode anime, like 2 core or 4 core.
Yeah, 2 years from now when we cover both Full Metal Alchemist anime, we're not doing episode by episode.
I think when we get to that kind of stuff, we'll do it more like by arc. We'll see when we get there. We're still hammering out the process.
Working out the kinks. Speaking of kinks,
oh boy.
That was a bad segue. I feel bad about that.
No, that was funny.
Episode 1, Computer Studies. Kintaro Oe, voiced by Doug Smith, is a 25-year-old vagabond, which they refer to as a freeder, which is someone who just travels around taking on odd jobs and such. In this episode, he gets a job as a sort of general assistant, I guess, at a programming company specializing in software development. Now, this is me doing my usual nerd for Japanese folklore thing. Do you know the original story of Kintaro?
Is it related to Momotaro?
Sort of. It's from that same era of, like, folklore and fable and stuff.
Maybe.
Kintaro was this little baby who grew up in the woods, wrestling bears and carrying an axe 3 times the size of his own body. Kintaro means golden boy, and it comes from that story of the really buff baby. I'm a buff baby, I can dance like a man. Sorry.
Is that where Golden Week comes from?
I believe so. Let me Google that real quick before I... Golden Week. Hang on. There is a holiday specifically based on Kintaro. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Oh. It is a custom to put up a Kintaro doll on Boys' Day in the hope that boys will become equally brave and strong. Yeah. May 5th. Oh, and it's the final celebration of Golden Week. So, there we go. This entire show is actually just stunning to look at in terms of, like, cell animation. And the OP especially is such a fucking treat for the eyes. Like, the song itself is also really cheerful and pleasant, but the opening animation is just gorgeous.
I actually was wondering if this had a different opening in Japanese, because it feels very, well, my notes say the music it's opening with feels bizarre and DMCA compliant.
I can't really argue with that, but it's a fun song. It's just a nice, charming little song. So let's talk about boobs.
Let's talk about titties.
There's a lot of them. And they are very present. The nipples are also very present. There's a lot of boobs, there's a lot of nipples.
There's some scenes where there's no nipples, but most of the scenes there are nipples, which I thought was weird. Like, there's one episode where there's, like, a lot of pool stuff, and in, like, some shots the main character has nipples, and in some shots the main character does not have nipples. Like, it just wasn't something consistently done, and it kept distracting me the whole episode.
Kintaro has Schrodinger's nipples.
Lots of boobs in this show.
Very well animated boobs.
I'm, like... I think something that I realized as I was watching this show is that I really don't have an issue with ecchi, because I had a great time with this, and this is ecchi. This show made me realize I enjoy ecchi, I just don't enjoy it when it's an ecchi with an all cast of fucking teenagers.
That's definitely a part of it, for sure. I think another big part of it comes down to who your main character is. And that's the thing that works with Kintaro. Kintaro is such a fun character. He is objectively a nasty little pervert, but the show does a really good job of showing that he's also just, like, this really nice dude. They could have easily just made him some creepy molester type, like so many other protagonists of his ilk, looking at you, whatever the fuck your name was from Aki Khan. But he remains likable despite being a certified freak. No matter how many toilets he sniffs, he's just a nice guy.
Yeah, and I mean, like, he does a lot of creepy shit, but he doesn't do it around people.
Yeah.
And he respects people's boundaries, which I think is not something you see a lot with this type of, like, horny pervert character.
The majority of his horny bullshit is internal, and it helps a lot with making him actually be likable despite what a nasty, nasty boy he is. A nasty, nasty golden boy. Oh, does the golden stand for the fact that he likes piss?
Probably.
I just thought of that. I just thought about that.
That would explain a lot, because there's a fucking toilet scene in every episode. So for anyone who has not watched this, every episode, there's kind of this episodic structure where Kintaro, like, he meets a woman, usually through whatever job he's doing that episode. He's, like, rubs his face on their toilet. They hate him because he rubbed his face on their toilet. He pisses them off more, and then he leaves and somehow earns their respect. That's, like, the formula for this show that's only broken really by the last episode.
There's always something where... Because here's the thing, there's the other thing about Kintaro. Dude is a fucking master of any skill that he tries to perform. Like, it's computer programming, martial arts, cooking, whatever the fuck. If Kintaro wants to do it, he'll become really, really good at it, really, really fast. And there's always some... And even if he doesn't become, like, really good at the specific thing he's trying to do, he'll become good at it in a different way.
Or he'll have a different approach, I think, would be a good way to put it.
Yeah. I think the best example of it is the swimming episode where he gets a job as a swim instructor at a school, and he's specifically teaching, like, the little kids. And at first, the actual, like, the owner of the business, she thinks that he's being too soft on the kids, and eventually he gets fired for being a horny little bastard. But then after he's gone, she realizes, like, oh, all of the other teachers have picked up these, like, really good teaching techniques that Kintaro came up with, and oh, maybe he's actually really good at this. He's just good at it in a way that I didn't think about. And I don't know, that's fun. It's really fun. Kintaro's just really likable.
He's like the poster boy for himbo culture.
Kind of, yeah.
He's like a horny himbo.
Hornbow.
I don't think himbos, like, they have to be pure of heart in that they need to be kind, but I don't think they need to be chaste.
What if Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo had a piss king? So yeah, there's the first episode, Computer Studies, where he gets the job at, like, the computer programming business, and he's mostly just a janitor.
So, like, the way that he finds this job is, I don't want to say organically, because it feels like something out of a rom-com, but he doesn't go looking for the job, per se. Does he? He gets hit by the car. I guess he has the job lined up already.
Yeah, the episode opens with him on his way to the job. He gets run over by a car, which has a big, sexy, bouncy boob lady in it, who gives him,
the most beautiful woman ever.
$10,000. She is very pretty. Yeah.
It's 10,000
Weird
yen.
wardrobe choices, but very pretty.
So it's like $1,000, $100. What? No, $100 with that.
In the dub, I think he says $10,000, but that's the dub.
So he's given this big sum of money because he needs to go and get medical treatment, and she doesn't want to stick around and worry about, like, insurance and shit, so she just pays him out.
Yeah.
Beautiful woman.
And then it turns out, very beautiful. But yeah, then it turns out that the same woman who hit him with her car is actually his new boss at the new job he's getting.
When he meets this woman for the first time, he meets her, she pays him, and then he immediately writes in his journal, "Some women are scary."
Yeah. Oh, so that's another big part. That's another thing that we should mention about Kintaro, is that he's got this journal with him where he's always writing down notes, and he's writing down his life lessons, and he's writing down just, like, proverbs and things he realizes about women and life and people and society, and a lot of sketches of sexy ladies that he meets, because he meets a lot of sexy ladies.
I think there's sketches of other stuff too. I don't think it's just sexy ladies, but I think it's mostly sexy ladies.
It's mostly sexy ladies, yeah. Another thing that I want to mention, we'll be less in depth about the other episodes, but the first episode sets up a lot about the character.
Yeah.
After he gets run over by the lady, his bike gets fucked up, and he takes it to this bicycle repair shop with this, like, really nice old man who fixes his bike for free because it wasn't that difficult. And then as he's leaving, turns out the Yakuza are shaking down the old man for money. And then near the end of the episode, it turns out that all of that money that he got, that like $10,000 or yen or whatever the fuck, he gave it all to the old man so he could pay off the Yakuza. And that's one of the first really big moments in the show where you're like, aw, he's a good boy.
I have a note here that just says titties.
I do too, actually. There's, wow, those titties. They make an immediate impact. Much like her car did on his face.
So he's working at, like, this IT company, but he basically goes in, he doesn't have many of the skills, he doesn't know how to operate a computer, like, at all. So they're like, okay, go do janitor work. Like, he has to kind of beg his way to staying in as well.
I do want to point out, I actually really like this scene because he goes in thinking that, like, oh, I spent so long studying computer programming and teaching myself, I'm so ready, and then he gets down and in the actual business and they're like, all right, show us what you got. And he's surprised that it's not basic. And like the other women that work there, which of course it's all women, they think it's funny. They're like, oh, you thought it was of course we don't use basic. We're a professional programming company. But they're not really mean about it. I liked that they're not like, they don't bully him. It's a very funny thing to happen.
They tease
this guy
him.
coming in thinking this professional company uses basic as a programming language. But they're also not like, they're not being mean to the poor guy, which I appreciated.
I do love that it's like all women in this place, though. It's very girl boss as a moment.
Very pretty. Like, okay, the boss lady is the only one with like a crazy over the top horny outfit, but all the other, God, I love 90s anime women. 90s anime women are my favorite women. The YouTube version of this episode is just gonna have sexy 90s anime ladies plastered over constantly for the next, like, 2 minutes.
I'm gonna watch that video. That's what I'm definitely watching. I could watch this show forever. There are so many beautiful women being so mean to the main character.
Your freak is showing a little bit now.
Oh, my freak was showing the whole time I was watching this show. You weren't in the room watching with me, but my wife was, and she was just like, wow, I've never seen you so focused on anime. And it's like, titties.
A couple more points about the first episode before we continue on, and just about the show in general. The comedic timing of most of the show in general is great, but especially like the comedic timing of facial expressions is a highlight of the show for sure. There's a particular scene near the middle of the episode where Kintaro is mopping, and he has like a pratfall, and it's so fluidly animated and so well timed. I paused the episode and replayed that shot of him getting hit with a mop like at least 10 times. It was really nice.
Oh, that would make, like, a great GIF. Like, if you, like, reversed it and then kept doing it.
I'm sorry, a great what?
A GIF. A graphics interface file.
That's worse than GIF.
It upsets the most people.
I'm most people. How dare you? That was disgusting.
I do that every time I say it. I don't know if you've noticed this.
You're a monster. Anyway.
I have a couple of notes on this episode as well before we jump into other stuff.
Oh yeah, do a couple of yours and then I have one more and then we'll go to the next episode.
I really like how it presents his daily routine at the company too, because it felt very down to earth and relatable as like, this is what your first job at a new industry feels like. They're just explaining common things about the programs and about like company policy and all sorts of stuff, and he's just absorbing it. And I don't know, it made me think of like my first job I worked out of college and what that was like.
So a bit of behind the scenes for those listening. As we're recording this episode right now, I just got done editing the YouTube version of the Chobits episode, which you'll have listened to already. And in that episode, one of the complaints I had about Chobits was that the main character, Hideki, he had all these like really over the top and zany reactions to things, and they felt out of place compared to the comedy and pacing of the rest of the show. show. It's done much better here, where Kintaro is also, like, incredibly bombastic and zany, way more so than Hideki. Honestly, Hideki seems calm compared to this man. But I can't really articulate how or why, but the balance of zany comedy to just feeling, like, really realistic and grounded is done so much better and so much more successfully in Golden Boy.
I mean, I think I can take a few stabs at why that might be. Chobits does have a lot of heavy theming, and I think, too, it's also a matter of how seriously a work treats their characters and how willing they are to make them look flawed.
I think you're onto something there, yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking this more so with regard to Aki-kan because I have not personally seen Chobits.
Mm-hmm.
I literally read all of Angelic Layer with the intent of reading Chobits and never did. I read all of Angelic Layer. Yeah. Oh, there was also a scene in this episode that just played out in such an interesting way to me. The scene where he is snooping and finds the bra.
Mm-hmm.
His response, I don't think it's horny. I think it's just genuine curiosity. Because he finds this bra, he's a little horny about it, and his first response is, oh, let's try it on.
That scene has one of the highlights of the entire dub where he sees it, and I'm not going to be able to do it justice. I'm stepping back from the mic to do this. But he sees it, and the dub voice actor's just like, a black bra!
A black bra!
It's so good.
The voice acting in this show is fucking next level in the dub. Like, it doesn't sound serious at all, but it works so well for this show.
Doug Smith, you are a national treasure. The last thing I want to bring up real quick before we move on to the next episode, the audio quality of the different voice actors' mics varies a lot, and I almost wonder if some of them recorded in other studios or something. It's really noticeable.
Oh, 100%. There were some really obvious ones. Like, there's one character who just has a dog shit mic.
I remember it stood out to me immediately in the first episode with a couple of the other programmer ladies. Like, some of them sounded okay, and then one or two of them is like, you are recording in the bathroom.
The, like, climax of this episode is so agonizing to watch because he goes and unplugs a fucking computer server.
Yeah. So that sets up the first instance you get of the show's recurring bit where Kintaro proves himself by some miraculous way.
After fucking everything up.
He ends up unplugging their servers, and all of their work on this new big program that they had a deadline for gets wiped. Immediately gets fired, as he should, because he fucked everything up. And then a few days later, a program is delivered to them on like a disc with an apology note, like, hey, sorry I fucked it up. And it turns out to be this like really well made and intuitive and easy to learn program that all of the girls are like, this is even more creative than something we could have come up with. And they're like, wait, maybe he was actually a nice guy, but he's already fucked off.
I need to look up when his birthday is because I feel like he's an Aquarius.
Oh my god.
Like, anime characters always... Oh, he's a Taurus. Interesting. His birthday's May 5th!
Oh, of course it is.
That's so fun. That makes sense. He was born on Golden Boy Day.
Episode 2, Temptation of the Maiden. Kintaro finds himself working at the campaign offices of a mayor with ties to the Yakuza and starts tutoring the mayor's teenage daughter. Right off the bat, the Golden Boy Wiki lists Naoko's age as 15 to 18. There's not a set age on her. I'm choosing to believe that she's 18, so we don't have to put Kintaro in jail, because he's 25.
Yeah.
She's probably not, though. She's probably like 16.
This didn't bother me as much as I expected it to, because she's the one with all the power. Usually the issue with age dynamics is, like, that the person who is older has all of the power. This plays around with it a little bit and isn't too explicit. That's not to say there aren't parts that I wish weren't there.
Oh, for sure.
But I think it's handled a lot more tactfully than a lot of other shows.
I think we should be clear, like, we enjoyed this show. It's very fun. That doesn't mean that there aren't problems.
Yes. I mean, that'll be the case with everything we cover.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna suck if we just complain the whole time. I mean, we did that with Aki-kan, but Aki-kan kind of deserved it.
Yeah, we didn't have a choice.
We didn't have a choice. This show, there's a lot to enjoy and a lot of sexy grown-ass women. There's just one character who is between the ages of 15 and 18, and that episode is kind of uncomfortable, but
I think it's also worth pointing out that in this episode where the girl of the day is potentially, in big air quotes, underage, she is only ever sexualized when she is sexualizing herself.
Yes.
Because the gimmick with this character is that, you know, she's the daughter of a Yakuza guy or a Yakuza connected guy. Every time some dude has an interest in her, they end up finding themselves at the bottom of the river. And she's a certified fucking freak in a different way and just really loves toying with men and eventually getting them killed.
She's just
much.
straight up sadistic and power tripping.
Yeah, so she spends the entire episode just totally fucking with Kintaro.
It also very much feels like, God, what's it called? Like when you have the character who, like, is acting out against their parents who are, like, well off but sometimes neglectful. Like, it really reads like that.
A little bit, yeah.
Because you never really see, like, you see her with her dad a couple times, but usually when you see her, she's alone.
Mm-hmm. Or being tutored by Kintaro.
In which case, she's trying to get attention from the people around her by fucking with him. I mean, that's my reading. She could just genuinely be horny for it, too.
A little bit both.
I see a little bit of myself in her in terms of attention-seeking behavior, and I know for me that that's where this would stem from.
So there's another thing about Naoko and her whole dynamic, which I really like, which is I love the bit that they have going with it where she's looking down on Kintaro for being a pervert when she herself can only think of sex, but she's also totally oblivious to the hypocrisy of the whole thing, and it's very funny.
She kind of fits into the archetype of, like, the carnivore woman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's, like, a codified trope or anything, but I know there's, like, in relationships, there's often, like, an herbivore man, carnivore woman dynamic in seinen especially.
I also want to mention how, I didn't write down her name, but the voice actor for the mayor's daughter, Naoko, absolutely fucking kills. She delivers every line perfectly. Absolutely love this one point where I'm pretty sure she's talking about Kintaro's boner, and she's just like,
Yeah, she does say that. Her voice actor in English is Alison Keith.
Alison Keith, you are also a national treasure. Now, the best part of this whole episode is there's a moment near the end where it's revealed, because Naoko, like, is going through his shit, trying to figure out how to fuck with him more, and she finds his journal, his notebook, and she's flipping through it, and it's revealed Kintaro was fully aware that she was just playing him the whole time, and he felt bad for her. It's an amazing moment. It's really good, because she's fucking furious. Like, how dare he talk down to me? How dare he think so little of me? And it's like, bitch, you deserve this.
She also kind of fits into, like, the, like, Hime kind of stereotype, Hime-dere, where she's, like, putting herself up on this pedestal and all these other people beneath her. Like, it's, like, a bit of a superiority complex, so to say.
Oh, 100%. Also, to be clear, Kintaro does not actually think less of her. He's like, oh, this poor girl, she must go through so much to be acting out like this. He's just a good boy. He's just a good boy.
I think, too, that also helps me stomach this episode a bit better, because she's thinking all this horny shit about him. He's just thinking about how he pities her and what's going on in her head and how she's feeling.
Let's not undersell it. He is also horny for her, but he never acts on it.
Yes. Which I think
that does definitely help.
Yeah.
All right, episode 3, Danger, the Virgin's First Love. Kintaro gets a job working at a restaurant, taking over for the owner, who was recently in a car accident, and he takes an interest in the owner's daughter, who's engaged to an absolute scumbag, who also has ties to the Yakuza. Kintaro gets involved with the Yakuza a lot.
I mean, how many crime syndicates are there in Japan in the 90s?
Why is he getting involved with any crime syndicates? Weirdly, I don't actually have a lot to, like, specifically say about this episode, even though I do think it might have been my favorite one.
It's a really good one.
It wasn't quite as gut-bustingly funny as the others, but it was nice seeing the show emphasize even more, like, how much just a nice fucking dude Kintaro is.
And I think that's really important at this point in the show, because you're getting close to the halfway point. This is the 3rd out of 6 episodes. Mm-hmm. It's really important to set him up to be empathetic to the audience before we get to the climax of it all.
The only scene from this episode that I really want to point out is there's one where Kintaro stands up to the douchebag fiance and reveals that he's a secret martial arts master, and it's so fucking dumb, but it manages to be dumb enough that it loops all the way around to being actually kind of cool again.
There's no way to read our protagonist as a neurotypical character whatsoever, because he has very specific skills that are way too specific to not be like hyperfixations or like the other one, hyperfocuses.
Yeah.
But also, like, he picks up stuff so quickly that, like, and has such an approximate knowledge of everything else. It's fascinating. He's also really just a high whiz, low int character, if you're talking D&D.
I love that. That's really good. You're right, too.
So the premise for this episode is that Kintaro is working at this restaurant for this lovely couple, and their daughter is the one who's engaged, and she's engaged to Mr. Kyogre. And he is also seeing other women, and he's just planning to marry her for, I guess the dowry, the shop to sell.
Yeah, he wants to get his hands on the noodle shop so that he can, like, tear it down and turn it into apartments or parking or whatever the fuck.
Something like that. It's some capitalist bullshit.
He's also the one that hit the dad in the car accident.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, they said that explicitly, like he was the one who ran over the dad and injured him, and that's why Kintaro had to help out while he recovered.
I don't think I knew about the car accident. I don't think I realized it was Mr. Kyogre. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna keep calling him this.
I'm never gonna get over that.
Mr. Kyogre. So you see Mr. Kyogre at a couple points, like, talking to other people about, like, what he actually thinks of his relationship and how he's totally, like, winning this girl over with his mad riz, as the kids would say nowadays. And there's this really weird scene at one point where he, like, shows his kissing tech and compares, like, kissing to, like, a torpedo. And it just took me so aback. Like, what? Do you remember this scene?
I do. I try not to, but I do. It was very strange.
Oh, and the ending of this episode is so sweet, too.
It is.
Because at the start of the episode, you see the daughter, she's really passionate about, like, plants and gardening and flowers. And at the end, you see her, like, building a bouquet.
Yeah, to give to Kintaro.
Yeah, to thank him for everything. And it's just
so cute.
It's such a nice scene, and I love the dynamic of, like, the girl pining over him and him just being too stupid to realize it. It's really charming.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens a lot in real life, but I feel like it's always done poorly in anime.
I can agree with that. Yeah. No, it's a really good episode, and it has a really cute ending. And are you ready for a tone shift?
Episode 4, Swimming in the Sea of Love.
Kintaro takes a job as a children's swimming instructor, this is one we mentioned earlier, while also challenging a former Olympic gold medalist to a swim race for a chance at a better job, basically. This is the only episode of the show that I didn't really like.
Oh, I loved this one.
Okay, first off, if you've seen any clip of this show, you've seen the one from this episode of Kintaro trying and failing miserably to swim. That is the one clip from this entire show that I see shared around the most and being used in memes and such. Like, this is arguably the most famous episode.
I feel like I'd seen a different episode clip, but I probably also had seen this one. Doesn't mean it wasn't still funny when it happened.
For sure. The shot from the first episode where the boss lady, like, goes to spit on him and he catches it in his mouth. I know that one's also really popular.
That's so
but
funny.
The swimming scenes from this are especially shared around a lot. But no, for some reason, the horniness of this episode felt a lot more cringe than the others. It felt a little grosser. Kintaro got a little closer to that line of, like, unpleasant, ecchi protagonist than the horny good boy that he's been so far. Also, the fact that Kintaro keeps referring to the dark-skinned woman with animalistic terms felt 90s, we'll say.
I didn't even put that together. Okay, I can see how this is much more uncomfortable with that realization.
It was mostly the horny stuff. Like, the horny stuff, for some reason, just felt a little less bearable than the other episodes, but that also was...
To be fair, it's a lot harder to hide a boner in a swimsuit.
Especially when it pokes out the top of the swimsuit.
Especially when it's a fucking Speedo.
This was also the episode that I made the mistake of when I was watching to do research. I was like, this is a silly, cute show that, like, gets a little horny at times, but generally is acceptable. I'll pop this on in one of the group chat calls and I can hang out with people while I'm writing notes. And this is definitely the
the worst one to do that for.
Yeah, I made a mistake. Everyone was like, this is an interesting thing for you to be showing. And I was like, I didn't think it would get this bad.
I really don't think think the horniness bothered me that much in this one. I mean, girl is an Olympic swimmer, and Olympians fuck.
There's specific, the one that stands out to me the most is the one where they're doing like a practice swim race, I guess you could say.
Oh, yeah,
and
where
he's trying to keep
her.
up with her. Yeah, and he just buries his face in her crotch, which you can argue accidentally. It's still uncomfortable. That's the closest that our otherwise good boy gets to, like, full-on assaulting a woman. Now, I will say, for all my qualms of this episode, and it is definitely my least favorite one, it is unironically really, really cute how good Kintaro is with the kids.
Yes. So this episode actually, like, this is probably the episode where I've worked a job closest to what he's actually doing. I don't know if you, like, did you feel that way with any episode in particular?
Not really. I mean, I've worked in restaurants before and such, but I wouldn't say I felt a connection to any of them necessarily.
Okay, because I felt definitely a connection to this episode because I've worked with kids in the past.
I think the closest one I could get to would be the last episode where he's working at the animation studio, but that's just because I know what it's like to have a deadline, looking at the fact that I only just finished editing the Chobits episode and it's going live tomorrow.
You're also looking at deadlines for, like, artistic processes, which I would assume you've experienced with stuff like commissions.
Yeah.
So, many years ago, many Laurel lifetimes ago, I did work with kids, and sometimes we would go into the pool, and this episode is so funny as someone who fucking worked with kids, because they just depict kids to be, like, absolutely terrible to work with, and it's 100% true in all of the ways that this show depicts it. There's, like, not a cutscene, there's, like, what's it called when there's, like, a bunch of scenes strung together that are, like, different. Montage, thank you. There's like a montage of him teaching these children how to swim, and they just keep throwing up in that pool. And let me tell you, that is such truth in television. Holy shit.
Laurel, what are you doing in the nurse's office?
I threw up.
I flew up. I don't think I've ever thrown up in a pool. Oh, God. And, like, the kids being, like, afraid to put their faces in water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This one felt really grounded, and I think the other ones probably are too, but this is just one where I've worked in an environment like that, so I understand, versus, like, software
it's
development.
relatable to you.
And I think that's part of why I enjoyed it so much, because, like, as much terrible horny shit as there is, there's also just really funny, down-to-earth moments where you get to see him just being a good guy and trying hard at his job.
Yeah. I wanted to like this episode a lot more, because the good parts are really good, but please stop referring to the girl boss black lady as a wild animal.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Episode 5, Balls to the Wall.
It's spelled B ampersand exclamation point S.
In this episode, Kintaro meets a woman who has sex with her motorbike. That's it. That's the episode. She just fucks her motorbike.
This episode rules.
This episode's really good. This woman knows what she wants, and I respect that. Like, honestly, you see her home life, and she's got to be bored as hell. No wonder she's sneaking off to grind those gears.
Okay, first note on this episode is, I can't believe we just watched a woman ride a motorcycle to completion.
Oh, there's a lot of completing in this episode. This is the episode, you know what? The last episode was the one where the horniness felt the most uncomfortable. This is the episode where it gets the closest to just being porn, which is not a complaint.
It's a sexually liberated woman, and I'm here for it. Go off, queen. I also wrote I need to watch more Satan, clearly. I also... God, my notes for this episode are gonna be a fucking mess. Because my next note is, she keeps complaining about men, but not women. I could fix her. I don't think that was the correct takeaway from this episode.
I don't think it was either, but now I'm just imagining you, like, Turbo Kid. That show from the 80s where this kid eats spicy food and he turns into a car, like he anamorphs into a car. I'm just imagining you anamorphing into a motorbike to have sex with this lady.
Yeah, so she's really into her motorcycle. Does she have like a vow of celibacy?
No. She just thinks that all men are pathetic, and she doesn't think that any dick can satisfy her, so she just uses her motorcycle as a vibrator. There's in the first half of the episode, there is a little bit of setup where like Kintaro becomes a attendant or something at this like very traditional fancy Japanese mansion when they're all like, they're still wearing kimonos and doing tea ceremonies and yada yada, like fancy Japanese rich family. And one of the few times he just immediately fucks up and can't do things right. But it turns out that the very demure and beautiful and the little butterfly daughter of the family has this secret second life where she sneaks out in the morning to a warehouse and just fucks her motorbike and rides around getting horny while doing car chases.
So I guess too, the other thing that's really interesting that this episode does is it starts by showing her, it starts with her finishing on a motorcycle and him watching and her noticing and then leaving. And then we don't see her again for a while. We are introduced to a character who is set up as a second different character, but the two characters are in fact one and the same. And it actually kind of caught me off guard in this.
Oh, you were surprised at the reveal that the
surprised.
princess lady was the horny bike lady?
Yeah, I thought that I thought there was something else going on with like the B plot of the episode.
Maybe it's just because I'd already seen this in middle school and I knew about it already, but it didn't, like, that. It was pretty clear to me from the beginning, like, oh, she's going to turn out to be the horny bike lady.
I can see coming to that conclusion. I think I was just expecting her to be like, I think I was expecting there to be a love triangle and not for them to be the same person, and for him to be choosing between like or for him to be between like a rock and a hard place with a very traditional girl who goes by the books and then a very wild girl who can't be tamed. I thought it was going to kind of go that direction and be two opposing forces in this same episodic story.
I think that would have been a really fun dynamic, but I also like what we get here with the secret horny double life.
I think that in her two designs, they're distinct enough that it doesn't immediately key you in the same person, whereas something like Magical Girl shows where they just slap on a mask or a different outfit and call it a day, right?
I will say it does make it believable that Kintaro didn't realize they were the same person.
Yes. I genuinely didn't realize they weren't the same person. I think, too, that, like, if she's, like, a traditional daughter, she's probably wearing makeup when she's around the house.
Oh, for sure.
And she's wearing the helmet when she's out. So I don't even know if he got, like, a good look at her face.
I don't know. Yeah, this is all in, like, the first 10, 15 minutes of the episode. The entire second half of the episode is dedicated to this absolutely bonkers bicycle race.
It's awesome!
Between horny motorbike lady and Kintaro, where she's like, you know what? You're gonna race me on your dinky little bicycle while I'm on my motorbike, and if you can catch me, you can fuck me all you want. And he's like, Jesus Christ, this bike race sequence is
it's incredible.
Most absolutely bonkers and requires the most like suspension of disbelief possible. But fuck, it's so fun to watch when he's like speeding downhill and he leaps off the road and starts riding on the fucking power lines.
Yeah!
It's insane!
The one thing that really got me about this is he's fucking drifting. Like Mario Kart drifting, but on a fucking bicycle.
And I love at the end, like, he's taking shortcuts and shit down this mountain in order to catch up to her, and he ends up overshooting and landing in the fucking woods, and for a minute she thinks he fucking died, which he should have. Realistically, I didn't want him to die, but he should have died from that. But at the end, he doesn't even realize he passed her, and he keeps speeding off, and she's just like, oh my god, I have to fuck this man. And then she speeds off to chase him, like, please fuck me.
Yeah, it's incredible. I actually was confused about the ending, so I went and read about what happened, because I was like, why did he just keep going? You know how earlier in the episode you see him trying to change his brakes?
Oh, that's right, his brakes broke.
His brakes broke, and he can't stop and turn around, and he can't stop at any point during this race, which I didn't know until afterward. That's why he just keeps going, because
fun episode.
He just fucking flies off. He's basically, they do like an Akira slide, like literally textbook Akira slide. I've specifically checked, and he just keeps going. And he goes fucking flying, but he undershoots the gap and just falls.
This is absolutely like the hardest episode to show other people, because it is the one that is the closest to just being porn, but it's so fun. It is a great time. If you're gonna watch watch any episode of Golden Boy, watch this one. I mean, watch the whole thing. It's only 6 episodes long.
Is it a controversial take to say it's okay to show people coming if you don't see anything?
I'm gonna say that depends on the person.
I guess so. Like, this doesn't feel any raunchier to me than, like, a music video or, like, a Western movie. I wouldn't say it's porn per se. You see people engaging in aspects of solo sex.
I'll put it this way, editing the YouTube version of this episode is going to be a fucking nightmare.
I mean...
Alright, episode 6, final episode. Animation is fun. Kintaro gets hired as a production assistant at a small animation studio, working on a film adaptation of a manga, and learns about the ins and outs of the animation industry of the 90s, while also doing his best to save the project from failure after the director is injured. I love this episode so much. I love when animated shows do episodes about animation. It's always really fun to see animators, like, vent their frustrations, but also show their affection for the craft, and just, oh, I love it. What's that anime that came out, like, last decade that was just about anime production? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember what it was called. I want to say New Game, but that's about, like, a game studio. That's not about, like, making manga.
Shirobako.
I was also going to say there's also Nozaki-kun, but that's more manga.
There's that's also a good example, yeah. There's also Keep Your Hands Off Aizoken.
I have not seen that one yet. That's a new one.
Oh, you gotta check that out. It's great. But no, I love shit like that. I love shows about making things, but especially, like, animated shows about animation. There's a moment where they show off how messy one of the animators' desks is, and it's just a panning shot of a real-ass photo.
I actually have a note about that scene. I wrote, "My wife just stopped and looked directly at me when the guy punched Kintaro for cleaning his desk." This whole episode, I was like, oh god, these people are me.
I was gonna say, I need to know the content. Are you the one who reorganized a desk, or are you the one that gets mad when people clean?
We specifically have a rule where my wife can clean as much of the house as her heart desires, but she can't touch my desk.
I have a similar thing with my wife because we're both autistic, and so we both have, like, very specific setups. There was one point when my wife first moved in where she moved the microwave, and I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I did want to ask, how many shows can you think of where they have, like, just an episode like this about making an anime? Because immediately going into this, I was like, this feels like it's going to be remarkably similar to that one episode of Paranoia Agent.
Ooh, you're right. I forgot about that one. I can't think of a lot of individual episodes that do this. Again, like, there's a number of shows that we named off that are about that. Weirdly, the only other one that comes to mind is the episode of Kirby Right Back at Ya, where Dedede, like, enslaves the town to make an animated series, and they just talk about how animation is difficult.
That's really funny. I haven't seen much of that.
The only reason why I know about that episode is because a few years ago there was one of those big, like, collaborative animation projects where, like, hundreds of animators get together and they each animate, like, a 5-second segment of the thing, and they reanimated that entire episode of Right Back at Ya about making animation.
That's fascinating.
So that was really fun.
I was kind of wondering if something like this was going to happen toward the end of the series too, because one of the first things I keyed into Kintaro was, wow, he's really good at doing, like, life sketches.
Oh,
you see a lot of drawings of women in his journal, and they're all, like, pretty advanced in terms of, like, anatomy.
But then the weird thing is when he starts working at the animation studio, he doesn't really do anything on the artistic end. He's mostly in the production planning and, like, running cells between studios and such.
No, but you do see him bonding with the animators over art.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that really, like, solidified this episode as my favorite, is there's just this conversation really early on in the episode where they're just talking about how they love to draw women and breasts and different types of body shapes. And I thought, this is, like, the most wholesome fan service I've ever seen because it's so specific and it's very earnest and it feels like talking about doing figure art. It doesn't feel pervert.
Oh, this episode is so good. This show is so good. Also, okay, I have 2 big points that I want to touch on for this episode. One, the plot of this episode is that he's working at an animation studio that is working on adapting some dude's manga into a movie. And at one point, the mangaka of the series that they're adapting comes in, and I was curious about it, and I looked it up, and yes, this is the real-life creator of Golden Boy inserting himself into the show.
Oh, so he's supposed to be... Wait, is he like the hentai illustrator or like the person overseeing everything?
The artist who comes in and he has like the manager lady showing him around, and he's the one that like, oh, they're adapting his work. It is supposed to be a self-insert of Tatsuya Egawa.
The fucking tool?
I don't think he was a tool.
There was one guy who was like famous for like making the world's most famous hentai who was kind of a tool. I don't know if that's the same guy.
I don't think it is, no.
Okay.
It's also really funny because you look up pictures of the real guy and he looks nothing like his anime self-insert. Like, he twinkified himself.
It's okay, man. I tried to make a self-insert in middle school and she really liked men. It turns out I did not. So...
The other thing that I wanted to bring up about this episode, Chie the Cell Painter is my favorite girl of the week.
Oh, yes. She's so endearing.
Probably just because I relate to her so hard for being a stressed out artist with self-doubt issues, but I love her. She's great. And there's such a great scene where she's feeling down on herself and he motivates her like, no, your job is important and you're good at your job. And Kintaro is such a good boy.
I think do you think that being able to hear his thoughts detracts from his likability as a character, or do you think it humanizes him?
I don't know if I would go so far as to say humanizes, but...
Because I feel like you could take out all of his internal dialogue and the show would be probably just as pleasant, but you wouldn't get some of the great one-liners, so I guess...
I think it is simply a testament to the quality of the character writing that despite the fact that we're constantly hearing his absolutely depraved thoughts and his absolute horny takes on things, like, despite all that, he still shines through in the end as just being a really nice, pleasant guy.
Because he never acts on it.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to see the version of him that all of these other characters are seeing, we would probably be even more receptive to him. I don't know. And I wonder if, like, there's anything that being able to hear his thoughts adds. I mean, it gives him a flaw, but I think there's enough scenes where his behavior is questionable without the thoughts.
Yeah, like...
That could be...
catching that woman's spit in his mouth.
Right.
Also, the multiple toilet scenes.
Yeah, but they don't... Like, the woman of the week doesn't know about the other toilet scenes.
I don't know, I think one instance of seeing a guy rubbing his face on a toilet you just used is probably enough instances of seeing a guy rubbing his face on a toilet you just used. I don't think you need added moments of a guy rubbing a face on a toilet you just used to think, this guy may be creepy.
If I saw a guy doing that, I wouldn't let him leave my house until he gave me $50. I don't... That doesn't feel like the right response, but that's what I do.
You're valid.
Like, they're not getting that for free.
Another great part about this episode is it does a very fun thing for a final episode of the show where he calls up all of the previous girls of the week to come help save the production. And it's strangely really sweet and really effective at like pulling the heartstrings. Like he calls up the boss lady from the computer company and they come help with like the animation part of it.
I think they specifically help with like 3D rotoscoping or something very specific like that. Like it's shocking how well thought out all of the roles and all of the jobs are for this scene.
Yeah, like the motorbike girl comes in and helps with like reference photos. The
swimming girl is also reference videos.
Yeah, no, that's right. Swimming girl is reference videos. Motorbike girl helps get
she does deliveries,
production items between the studios back and forth. The high school girl comes in and brings a friend of hers along, and they do voice acting, which I really love because they frame it in the episode where Kintaro is like, oh, we need more voice actors. Who do I know who's really good at lying?
Yeah! It's really cute. Like, I thought that was so charming. Like, of course you get the fucking high schoolers who are gonna be excited to be in a production. They're not gonna care too much about being paid. Especially, like, these rich-ass kids. And, like, they're just gonna be excited to be a part of it, you know?
I had such a huge smile on my face the entire time just seeing all of them come back and get together. And, like, in a different show, under a less good creator, this absolutely could have come off as, like, trying too hard and overly earlier and it wouldn't have hit, but it hits really well. It's a great moment. This show is so
There's
good,
a lot
damn
of
it.
scenes that I think are very intentional in setting the tone the way it is. You see a lot of, like, the girls interacting with each other and not being spiteful of one another and actually working towards common goals.
Yeah.
And, like, you get to see them interacting with all of the background characters, and it's also, they're working on this production. They have this big common goal that they're all working towards, and they're just excited to see this project to completion.
The scene where they watch the test screening and it goes well and they're all just like so happy about the art they made.
And everyone's like, wow, it's so cool to have been a part of this experience. I never would have gotten to be a part of this experience.
Yeah,
because,
and like to touch on...
if you think about it, like, when is a fucking swim coach gonna have an opportunity like this?
Yeah. And to touch on something you said earlier, like, yeah, at this point, every single one of the girls that we've seen throughout the show that come back and help out and everything, to various levels, they all really want to bone Kintaro. And you make a good point that, like, at no point are any of them being, like, catty or fighting each other or, like, fighting over him. They're all just happy to work together and be around each other.
They're happy to see him again.
Yeah.
Because they get to, like, apologize, or, I guess, like, they can reconcile their differences because they've all been, to different extents, seeking him out as well. That's something we've seen throughout. There's, like, literally a car with all of them gathering together and trying to find this guy.
Yeah, the very end of the show, spoilers, I guess. We haven't really been doing good about spoilers in this one, but whatever. But at the very end of the show, Kintaro, like, well, I've done this job, time to go find another one. And all of the girls just hop in the President Lady's car and drive off to go find him. It's a nice little scene to end on.
I don't think there's enough, like, plot for there to be spoilers in this show.
I guess that's fair.
It feels just like a bunch of events that are happening. I'm trying to think of if I have any other, like, big closing thoughts, because everything really feels like it wraps up nicely in a neat little bow.
That's another thing that I think is worth praising the show for is it's only 6 episodes long, but I don't feel like anything is... Like, it feels satisfying. Like, I like, obviously I'd be happy if there was more, because it's a really fun show, but I'm not... The end of it doesn't leave me wishing there was more, if that makes sense.
And it's also not something where I was like, oh, I want to go read the manga for this now, because I felt like the anime did a good job of telling the story.
It's a nice, complete package.
Yeah, it's very feel-good.
Which is weird to think about, considering how much of a piss kink there is in this show.
Yeah, but there's also beautiful women.
Oh, beautiful women.
Beautiful women.
Beautiful 90s women.
Beautiful, mean women. I don't know if you've been around for me being, like, a freak for girls who are absolutely cruel and mean, because this is a trend.
Okay, this isn't gonna be... No, you know what? We need to focus. We need to finish this recording. We can talk about sexy ladies some other time. Time for just my favorite part of every episode. Time for the retro views.
You can't see me, but I'm doing jazz hands.
Time to look back at reviews from the time period and see what the people of yesteryear thought about what we're watching today. The first one I have is from Louise Cruz from animeondvd.com from 2004.
animeondvd.com?
What?
Oh, I was just laughing at the website name because it's so dated nowadays. animeondvd.com.
I think it's still going, is the great part. Golden Boy is a rare series that manages to blend comedy, risque content, and a decent plot. Golden Boy is surprisingly well written for an erotic comedy. There are so many over-the-top elements, such as the running Kintaro toilet gag. However, the jokes are not forced and flow from the plot naturally. I want to interject a joke about flow and the piss kink, but I'm going to refrain. They feel like a natural extension of both the characters and the plot. What holds the series together is the charming character of Kintaro. He embodies the stereotype of a man having only sex on his mind, yet manages to be utterly honest, humble, and caring. Knowledge is all he truly seeks, and he delights in learning anything, however mundane it might be. That's such a nice way to put it. That's such a nice, like, that could be such a good back-of-the-box descriptor for the whole show, I think.
I think that, like, the quality of the writing in this show is incredible for the type of writing traditionally seen in the edgy and, like, sane and comedy genre.
Okay, I'm gonna make a bold statement here, but I think you'll agree with me.
Okay, if not, I'll make fun of you.
Golden Boy is what... Fair enough. Golden Boy is what all ecchi comedies should aspire to be.
Oh, 100%. It's so...
Oh, thank God.
It's so...
I didn't want to have to argue on that.
It's so earnest, and it's so humble, like he said. I think what it made me realize this review is a big part of why Kintaro doesn't come across as super uncomfortable is as much as he wants to have sex with these women, he doesn't expect sex from these women.
Yes! Oh, that's such a good way of putting it. Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, he's interested, and he's expressing he's interested, but he cares about them as people, and he sees them as people first before he sees them as, like, sexual objectives.
The whole point of the show is that he is constantly working and picking up odd jobs, and a lot of them he is working under or at least helping these women, the girl of the week. And yeah, no, it's so fucking refreshing that he is doing all of this work for these women, and at no point does he ever even consider the idea that he is owed sex.
Yeah.
Fuck, this is a good show,
He
goddammit.
just wants to learn from his experiences, and he's grateful for any experience he has because he can grow from it. And that's just such a healthy outlook to have on life, period, too.
I really am realizing now that, like, every single ecchi comedy that we watch after this for the show, I'm gonna be using Golden Boy as a point of comparison.
As the benchmark?
Golden Boy is the benchmark.
That's a high bar.
It is. But shouldn't we want better out of our media?
We should want better out of our media. I just feel like maybe it should be a little bit more of a realistic goal than this. I feel like this show is a masterpiece. Like, the writing is so clean. It feels like there's no plot hooks left when you finish the show, and that's what really is, like, mind-blowing to me.
The other review that I have, this one is from a Mr. Mike Toole from Anime Jump from 2003.
Mike Toole? Oh, that's a great name. I'm saving that one for a sim.
Golden Boy has long been a favorite in American fandom, and it's easy to see why. Kintaro has a simple everyman appeal, and his lechery is mostly harmless. Mostly harmless. The sum total of Golden Boy would have been middling at best if it wasn't for one thing: Doug Smith. His performance as Kintaro in the English version is blazingly forceful. He has no training as a voice actor, he frequently slurs words, and his diction is spotty, but the sheer amount of energy he puts into the character makes up for it in spades.
I think that actually, like, is a huge advantage in this too. Like, at first I was really taken aback by the dub because I was like, what the fuck? This doesn't sound like voice acting, this just sounds like people. But tonally it works so well for this show.
Okay, not to praise Rick and Morty, but it is a very similar thing to how Rick and Morty and other shows from that, like, creator in that style are known for. What is it referred to? Like, mumble voice acting or stutter acting, where
Like
they leave in the gaffs?
Voice acting?
Not mumble, no, but like where they leave in things that most, like, acting would take out, like the ums and ahs and the stutters and such, to make it feel more realistic.
I figured that was just something everything did.
No, a lot of productions would take that sort of thing out, but the Rick and Morty, I think, is what most people think of in that style, where they purposefully leave in stutters and tripping over words and stuff to make it feel like more real dialogue.
That never occurred to me. I always just assumed that was just, like, the comedy style, but I guess it is for more realism.
I mean, I'd say it's both, probably.
I guess I just always thought, like, in Rick and Morty that, like, they're very scripted dialogues, or they're just people going fucking off, and I guess that's what you're describing, though.
Mm-hmm.
I just never really thought about it much. And I don't think I really noticed the absence of it in other stuff.
I think it's just because it's so expected in all of our shows and movies and games and other media. Like, that's just how they're made. But that's what makes it stand out more when stuff like this happens, where it feels more natural.
Yeah, I think I would have assumed it was more ad-libbing than an editing choice.
This isn't really part of the retro views, this is more in just continuing thoughts, but there was a negative review I found on My Anime List that said all of the female characters were flat with no personality, but honestly, to me, with the exception of maybe the boss lady from episode 1 and the motorbike fucker from episode 5, all of the women actually managed to feel like real people to some extent.
I think even, like, the more eccentric characters work as eccentric people, though.
For sure.
Because, like,
they're not necessarily... I wouldn't say that they're grounded the way that the others are.
They're not grounded, but I feel like the woman in the first episode totally feels like an entrepreneur that could be a thing, that had, like, a startup that took off.
I think the thing that takes her out of the realm of reality to me is just her fucking outfits.
Fucking crop tops and booty shorts? I want this dress code at my work.
Don't you work from home?
I do. I guess I do just wear that all the time, but I'm not supposed to on video calls.
You don't get to see other women wearing those things at work.
I don't really care about other women wearing those things. I just want to wear crop tops all the time. My tummy was meant to see the sun.
Closing thoughts. Again, like, I always intend that there's going to be a segment at the end of every episode where we're like, you know, would you recommend this today? And that's where we give the big reveal of whether or not we liked it, which I'm not going to say it's a bad thing that we're praising the show throughout, but I think it's pretty fucking obvious that, yes, we want people to watch this show.
I mean, I think there will be shows where it'll be a bit harder to tell in the future. I think
Oh, yeah.
we've just watched a couple of bangers and one really bad anime.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what it is, but I think the next thing that we watch, there could be more of a middle ground interpretation, potentially.
I'm also just a person who's pretty patient with media and pretty willing to give a positive outlook on things.
Oh, same. My favorite Pokemon game is Scarlet and Violet. I think the Netflix Death Note movie was good, actually. And me saying that probably just made somebody throw up.
I never got to finish it because I was watching it with my ex who is really bad with horror.
Oh.
Yeah, we couldn't watch much together. Half of what I watch is horror.
Would you like to give any closing thoughts about this show?
I want to watch more shows with boobs.
I'm sure we will find plenty.
Yay!
Now, of course, there is the stipulation to our recommendation of this is, if you haven't noticed, a very adult show.
You do see nudity as well, which I don't think we really discussed, but is worth bringing up.
No, there is some nudity, to be fair. It's mostly just, like, titties and stuff, but there's nip. This show has nip.
You also get hand penises, so a little bit of everything.
You also do get the hand penis, yes. There is, like, this is a wonderful show with great writing, really fun characters, amazingly timed comedy, really nice animation, but it is still very horny and very adult, and there's going to be some people where they are just not into that sort of thing, and that's perfectly fine. So go into this knowing what you're getting into, but if you have a certain threshold for that sort of thing, you're gonna have a wonderful time.
And I think it really does help, like, as a femme viewer, to be looking at this and seeing, oh, these women are predominantly sexualizing themselves in these situations. They are choosing to wear clothes that accentuate their features. It's not like they're being put into situations where they're wearing stuff they're uncomfortable with. Mm-hmm. They are expressing themselves sexually in front of male characters in ways that they're comfortable with. It seems to me like as good as fan service gets.
It really is just setting the bar. I'm gonna be, whether intentionally or not, I'm gonna be comparing all ecchi shows that we watch in the future to this.
And like,
I'm gonna hold them to the Golden Boy standard.
The Golden Boy standard! Oh my god, the golden standard.
Any ecchi show that we watch in the future, if it matches or, God forbid, surpasses Golden Boy's level of quality, it will be awarded the Golden Boy seal of excellence.
We'll see. I'm trying to think of like other ecchi that I've seen that does fan service well, because even stuff that like I enjoy that does fan service usually doesn't do it great. It's usually still teenagers. This is great because this is like grown-ass people. I don't feel uncomfortable. I don't feel like I need an adult.
The adults are here.
We're all adults here.
Hopefully, including the high school girl.
Yeah. I do think, too, that this is also, like, a little mature tonally. Like, I feel like I wouldn't have had the same appreciation for this as a fresh 18-year-old that I do as, like, a 20-something.
Oh, absolutely agree. Like, I first saw this when I was in, like, 8th grade. But, like, I loved it. I mostly loved it because there was titties. But yeah, watching it as an adult, there's so much more to appreciate about it.
Well, I mean, even just like as a young adult versus like a full brain adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I would have realized how like grounded all of the jobs are and how difficult it can be to go from such different industries. Like, there's a lot of stuff about working culture and what have you in this show that I feel like I would not have appreciated if I watched this at 18 or 19. I think this show has a lot to offer in addition to the fan service, but I do think a lot of it is very mature, and I don't think it would have as much appeal to someone on the younger side or someone who hasn't been out and working.
Now, if you enjoyed our podcast,
you can follow us for more updates at Weeb Years on Blue Sky.
And also, if you want to like send in a listener question or suggestions, feedback, whatever, theweebyears@gmail.com. We've got a mailbox as well. If you enjoyed listening to us today, which I hope you did, did, if you lasted this long into the episode to hear the outro, then please, follow, sub, comment, leave a review, etc., all that good shit. It is the easiest way to help us grow, and we would really appreciate it if you enjoyed it and want to see more, or hear more, I guess, because it's a podcast.
If you're not, you must be the biggest Golden Boy super fan in the world, so congratulations.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye! See you in 2 weeks.